Wisconsin has become the latest state to ban private funding of elections. The swing state's voters backed a measure to amend the Wisconsin Constitution following a Republican push to prohibit cash infusions of the sort that marked the 2020 vote. Since the 2020 election, 27 other states have prohibited or limited such grants, according to the nonpartisan National Conference of State Legislatures. And President Biden said he was outraged and heartbroken by the killing of 7 humanitarian aid workers in a strike by Israeli forces, strongly condemning the attack just hours after Israel's top military commander acknowledged its military had made a grave mistake by targeting and killing 7 of the humanitarian aid workers who were providing food to those in desperate need in Gaza. And Special Counsel Jack Smith warned today that the judge overseeing Trump's classified documents case, he warned that she's pursuing a legal premise that is wrong and said he would probably appeal to a higher court if she rules that a federal records law can protect the former president from prosecution. Also, the judge handling the hush money case in Manhattan, the criminal trial set to proceed on April 15th, said he would not delay that trial while Trump continues to ask the Supreme Court to rule that he is immune from all criminal prosecution. And the back and forth thriller between Iowa and LSU on Monday night, which sent Caitlin Clark's Hawkeyes to the Final Four, was the most watched women's college basketball game on record. The game averaged 12.3 million viewers. ESPN said that it made it the most watched college basketball game for men or women to ever air on the ESPN platform. And Donald Trump used his campaign event in Michigan on Tuesday to denounce what he called Biden's border bloodbath, zeroing in on the case of a young woman killed by someone immigration officials said had entered the country illegally. However, this backfired because a family member of the woman that was killed basically admonished Trump for using her loved one as a campaign wedge and said, look, we never hear you talk about Americans who do heinous crimes like this as well. And Israeli top military commander has formally acknowledged that its military made a grave mistake and apologized for the attack on the aid convoy that killed 7 workers from the World Central Kitchen. Now, this is a rare admission of fault by Israel in the 6-month-old war in the Gaza Strip. And President Biden and former President Donald Trump won overwhelming victories in state primaries yesterday, while a small but significant protest vote in both parties continued to assert itself against each candidate. Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump, who had already cinched their nominations, scored yawning leads in primaries in Connecticut, New York, Rhode Island, and Wisconsin, with the races called shortly after polls closed in all of those states. And Representative Don Bacon on Sunday warned that it is possible that Speaker Mike Johnson could face a vote to oust him if he moves to pass Ukraine aid in the House. Now, Representative Bacon said, I'm not going to deny it when asked by a moderator on a Sunday show whether it's possible if Johnson could lose his speakership over a move to try to get a vote on the House floor for Ukrainian aid. Well, that's the news of today, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm joined by 2 superstar contributors and strategists, I'll call them. Dr. Omekongo Dibinga, he is a senior professional lecturer at American University, and he is a sought-after political commentator. And also joining us in this hour is Richard Green. Richard is a Democratic strategist and communication strategist. You've seen them both on the show many times, and I'm glad to be in conversation with them today on this very, very busy news day. So we'll be breaking down today's trending news with them. And in hour 2, you know what we do. That's the hour where we go deep, where we dig behind those headlines. And today we're going to be airing a show that we did a while back, an interview that I did a while back with Robbie Montgomery, fondly known as Miss Robbie. My interview with her was so incredibly popular. We wanted to share it with those that didn't get a chance to see it. Miss Robbie is 82 years young, and she is doing her thing. She is opening a new Sweetie Pies restaurant. So for all of you that have been wondering what happened to Sweetie Pies, there will be a new restaurant opened in the heart of North St. Louis come this summer. She's also added to her resume. She already has chef, a best-selling author, reality TV star, a restaurateur, serial entrepreneur, mother, grandmother. Now she's going to add to that long resume, best-selling author, or best-selling, I should say, recording artist, because she has a new song out called Boss Lady, which definitely defines who she is. But she's also adding to that long list of accomplishments, developer. Yes, hear all about what she is doing to revitalize a block of land in her hometown, my hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. So make sure you stick around for hour 2. But before I bring on my guest, here's what I'm thinking about in real time. Now, you know, Disney has been in the news a lot. Some of it's because of Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who basically went to war with Disney, the company. Some say he went to war with Mickey Mouse. But in addition to the attacks on Disney as being the woke corporation, there was this huge battle going on in terms of who was going to sit on its board of directors. Now, most of us aren't thinking about who is on the board of directors of big companies, but it matters. It matters because those board members basically control the direction of that company. They control what that company does in terms of the products and services that it may offer. It controls the culture that is set at any particular company. Now, obviously, board members are also there to make sure that shareholders, those people that own stock in companies, are getting the maximum return on their investment. So board members have a fiduciary obligation to shareholders, and they have a responsibility to oversee the daily operations, not so much in the weeds operations, but they're the governing body of corporations. So Disney was in this big fight. One of what we'll call a more activist billionaire investor in Disney, his name is Nelson Peltz. He was pushing to get a board seat on the Disney board. And for those of us who are fighting for social justice and racial justice, that would have been disastrous. And you may ask why? Why were we fighting and hoping against all odds that Nelson Peltzer, billionaire, would not end up on the Disney board? Well, I'll tell you why. Nelson Peltzer is the enemy of diversity, equity, and inclusion. He has made his feelings well known. He's been very vocal, been outspoken, I should say, about Disney's efforts to diversify its products, its movies, its services. Now, you all know, growing up, Disney had, all the characters that we have fallen in love with, Minnie Mouse, Mickey Mouse, etc. And for the most part, when Disney's movies came out, we could always expect to see an all-white cast. Well, over the years, Disney got the message that America is not all white, that America is increasingly becoming browner. And the people who go to the movies, who spend billions of dollars at movie theaters, look like me. They look like, many of those who are in the audience for KBLA. And if you want to attract us, if you want us to keep buying your $15, $20 movie tickets, you want us to keep buying all your merchandise for these movies, you need to have us see people that look like us in your movies. So Disney got the message, and we started to see, more diverse characters, more diverse actors, more diverse products on the shelves. But Mr. Peltz thought that was a problem. In fact, he railed against Disney's efforts to produce more diverse and inclusive entertainment. In a fairly recent interview with the Financial Times, for example, Mr. Peltz took aim at Marvel projects that he said were too squarely focused on gender and racial diversity. Yes, get that. He said Disney's Marvel projects were too focused on gender, that i.e. including women, and racial diversity, i.e. including people of color. He went on to say, why do I have a Marvel that's all women? Not that I have anything against women, he said, I'm going to say sarcastically, but why do I have to do that? Why can't I have Marvels that are both? Why do I need an all-black cast? Well, sir, you need an all-black cast because for far too long, all of the casts have been all white. And I don't remember anyone ever complaining when the cast of movies were all white, which has been the history of movie making in this country. But I am so happy to report today that the Disney board and its CEO, who was in an intense battle, they were in an intense battle to make sure that Mr. Peltzer and his antiquated 19th century ideas about diversity, equity, inclusion did not become a part of its board. And they were able to fight back, stand up, and gain enough support from folks like Star Wars creator George Lucas, JP Morgan Chase CEO James Dimon, Laurene Powell Jobs, who is the widow of Apple co-founder Steve Jobs, and Disney family members like Abigail E. Disney. All of those folks band together to fight back against Mr. Peltz and his efforts to become a member of the Disney board. And I'm happy to report that the good guys and the good women in this case won the battle for the day. Now, we have not won the war with respect to DEI, which is why I'm proud to report and to announce that I'm going to be in Baltimore, Maryland on this Friday hosting a panel of national experts. And we're going to be talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion and the attacks on DEI and what we can do to stand up and fight back against these bullies, against those folks who would like to send us back centuries, like Mr. Peltz and others. He's not alone in his attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And because only 2,000 or so folks are going to be at this conference in Baltimore, we wanted to make sure that tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people had access to this important conversation. So we're going to be streaming my panel, my hosting, my collaboration with these national experts. I'm going to be streaming it on my Facebook page, on my YouTube page. So make sure you tune in Friday afternoon around 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, because this is going to be an important conversation that you don't want to miss. If you have a job, if you are an employer, if you work in government, if you work in private entity, if you work at a university or school, you should know what's happening around this country and what folks like Mr. Peltz are trying to do. And we also want you to have some tools and some strategies so that you can fight back. So again, make sure you check out this panel I'm hosting on DEI this Friday. I'll be in Baltimore, Maryland, but we'll be streaming it live around 1:30 EST on all of my social media platforms. So make sure you check it out. When we come forward, more of today's trending and breaking news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment through the arts. Dia Chucha Central Cultural is on a mission to transform community in the Northeast San Fernando Valley and beyond through ancestral knowledge, the arts, literacy, and creative engagement. The Northeast San Fernando Valley has a population of about 500,000, the size of the city of Oakland, yet it has no bookstores, art galleries, or full-fledged cultural spaces until Dia Chuchas opened its doors in 2001. Founded by renowned poet and activist Luis Rodriguez, Dia Chuchas Cultural Center provides a year-round free or low-cost arts and literacy bilingual intergenerational programming in mural painting, music, dance, writing, visual arts, healing art sessions, and healing talking circles. Activities also include Mexica, Aztec dance, indigenous cosmology, philosophy, and 2 weekly open mic nights, one in Spanish, the other in English. In addition, they host author readings, film screenings, and art exhibits. To express yourself, heal yourself, attend an event, or volunteer, please visit www.diachucha.org. That's TIACHUCHA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Eggs are a staple in our diets, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties: classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
1 in 3 children born today will get diabetes. This sad prediction by the Centers for Disease Control will come true if millions of Americans don't improve their lifestyles, especially by changing what they eat, how much they eat, and how active they are every day. Every 23 seconds, another American gets diabetes. Stop diabetes before it starts. To learn more, contact the American Diabetes Association or download our free diabetes education programs at learningaboutdiabetes.org.
I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? You know, my...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness from my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
And Richard Green. All right, Dr. Dibinga, this horrific attack on 7 workers who were part of the World Central Kitchen, who are in Gaza providing humanitarian aid, are killed. And of course, Joe Biden, the White House, everyone is outraged, up in arms. The CEO of the World Central Kitchen said this was not an accident, despite what Benjamin Netanyahu said. She said this was targeted. She said they were clearly identified. Everyone knew who they were. There was no mistaking here. Now people are asking Biden, beyond being outraged, what are you going to do? Are you going to use this as a leverage to cause Netanyahu to stop this senseless killing of civilians? I mean, one of these individuals was a Canadian and U.S. citizen, had dual U.S. and Canadian citizenship. Obviously, our hearts go out to these men and women who were senselessly murdered just trying to provide humanitarian aid. But what does this mean for the White House?
It should mean that the White House is finally going to start putting actions with their words. I mean, look, at the end of the day, Biden can talk about his outrage all he wants, but if he's going to continue to say, this is terrible, but here are some more missiles without conditions, then the hypocrisy is real. And quite honestly, when you look at the number of people who are voting uncommitted, many of those people are not going to come back to Biden in the fall. The question Biden has to ask is that, do we want to lose our democracy in the United States or our democratic experiment because of Netanyahu, because of this guy, right? And Biden has to answer that question, because the fact of the matter is, these are not the first aid workers who have been killed. You know, there have been over 200 that have been killed. And furthermore, Reva, this is not the first American that has been killed in Gaza or in Palestine since this conflict broke out, because another American teenager who was of Palestinian origins was killed in the West Bank about 2 months ago. And so these things are starting to pile up. And I believe that when you look at some of the top Jewish leaders in Congress, people like Bernie Sanders, like Chuck Schumer, they are calling for the United States to change its policies, and they're calling for, you know, a change as it relates to Bibi Netanyahu's government. The fact of the matter is that we have too many people, too many Palestinians who have lost their lives. And people like you and me, we care. The KBLA listeners, we have humanity for these 7 people who died. They were heroes. But we also have the same humanity for the close to 30,000 people, primarily women and children, who have lost their lives and has gotten not as much attention. Some of these world leaders are speaking today for the first time about this conflict and how tragic this was, and have been silent to date. That's where we have to uncover our common humanity. And lastly, I will say, Jose Andres with the World Central Kitchen, he said that one of his colleagues said that the day before this attack, one of their trucks had the mirror shot off of it by an Israeli sniper. And one of these trucks that got blown up had a hole right through the logo. So these were targeted indeed. And this is just a mistake nonsense? No. And I hope that they go beyond investigations to find out what actually happened. And there's some prosecutions behind this.
Yeah, Richard. So pressed by reporters on today, really, about Mr. Biden's thinking on the subject, John Kirby, a White House national security spokesman, pointed reporters to the president's statements condemning the strike on the aid workers. But there are reports that the White House itself is at odds about what it means to condemn, as Dr. Dibinga said, condemning without actions is pretty hollow. Where do you think the president goes in light of the powerful nature? We know the World Central Kitchen and its owner, the celebrity chef, has a lot of power. What do you think happens next?
Okay, so I want to ask in advance for your patience, because as an American Jew who has been to Israel 19 times, I've been to the West Bank, I've met with and worked with Benny Gantz, who is likely to be the next prime minister. I know lots and lots and lots and lots of people in Israel. I want to say things that may seem to be completely contradictory. Number one, I've been calling for Bibi Netanyahu to be ousted. He is the worst leader Israel has ever had. I agree with Chuck Schumer, and I think, and I'm celebrating that 100,000 people were marching over the weekend in Jerusalem for new elections. We cannot move on with the same face if we want to move into a different phase of resolving this conflict and a two-state solution. So that's the part I think you guys will like about me. The part you're not going to like is that I honestly do not believe that anyone in the IDF, and certainly not the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, or even Netanyahu, who I despise, was purposely targeting aid workers. This is urban guerrilla, incredibly, incredibly difficult warfare. And I'm going to say something that you're going to hate. Why can't the world come and ask, protest, insist that Hamas release the hostages, put down their arms, and then Israel doesn't even have to be in Gaza?
Okay, why don't you respond to that, Dr. Dibinga? Because I don't know if what you just said, the last part of that, Richard, about Israel doesn't have to be in Gaza. Netanyahu has made it pretty clear that no matter what the case is, he's going to be in Gaza because he wants to take over Gaza. But why don't you respond to that, Dr. Dibinga?
Well, I think, first of all, the IDF has demonstrated time and again that it doesn't really care for what happens to anybody on the ground in Gaza. I mean, they shot their own people who, the 3 hostages who got out, came out and said that we're Israeli citizens and and they were shot as well. They don't care. They can have precision targeted attacks in places like Syria, but won't have precision targeted attacks in places like Gaza. You can't just bomb your way out of this. Hamas is a terrorist organization, but Hamas is also an idea. You can bomb away all of the leadership and you're just going to create an Hamas 2.0. And I agree 100%. They absolutely should release the hostages. And we have always called for that. But I agree with you, Ariva. We also have to be mindful of the fact that Netanyahu propped up Hamas. And he has propped them up for years. And he has disabled much of the Palestinian Authority that was not part of Hamas. And that's just also been part of the factor that people don't want to talk about. And every time this is brought up to Netanyahu, he says, this is not the time. This is not the time. I think he's more focused on not wanting to be prosecuted if he's not in office than actually caring about the Israeli people.
And it's very clear, Richard, that Netanyahu has made it clear he's not interested in a two-state solution where the Gaza or Palestinians living in Gaza would have an opportunity to govern themselves. He's made that very clear. And, let's be clear. Two things can be true at the same time. We can be anti-Hamas, and I am, Dr. Dibinga is, and I think everybody on this network
no one is
absolutely positively anti-terrorist. Nobody's supporting them, but at the same time, we have to call out Israel in its senseless attacks. 30,000 people are dead. And as far as we know, or as far as been reported out, they're no closer to annihilating Hamas today than they perhaps were 6 months ago when they started this attack. So when does it end? 50,000 people, 100,000 people? How many people have to die under this, annihilate Hamas theory that Netanyahu has?
Okay, there's so many things. First of all, Israel gave Gaza back to the Palestinians in 2005. Israel has a wonderful, vibrant country with lots of coastline, and they do not want to take over Gaza. They do want to take over Gaza as long as there are terrorists in Gaza who are dedicated to and promising to breach the borders and rape and murder innocent Israeli men, women, and children. And if you're so concerned about the three IDF people that Israeli forces killed accidentally, why are we not protesting against the 30,000 Palestinians that Hamas has been hiding behind? It just doesn't feel equal to me. As soon as Hamas legitimately is neutralized, there will be no interest on the part of the Israeli mothers and fathers to send their sons and daughters into Gaza for them to be killed.
There are Israelis as well as other Jewish people in the U.S. and Israel who adamantly disagree with you, who are themselves calling for a ceasefire. So I don't. Obviously, this is a very complex issue.
We could talk about it.
I know we could talk 5 days and never ever agree on it. But I don't think, as much as you're saying, where is the outrage over Hamas? Americans are saying, where is the outrage over the 30,000 dead people? Of course, there's empathy for the 1,200 Israelis who were senselessly killed by Hamas. Everybody mourns for the loss of those lives. But
Ariva,
at the same time, we have to recognize 30,000 people dead is
but a lot of them were combatants.
Hold that thought, Richard. We've got to go to break. Hold that thought. When we come forward, we can continue this conversation right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
Time is the right time. More of Ariva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. A 42-year-old Thurston County, Washington resident has pleaded guilty to making a threat against a Black federal employee and yelling racial slurs at the person. In February 2023, Stephen Verez went to the Olympia Social Security office to get a replacement Social Security card. The employee told Verez he didn't have the right paperwork, and Verez became irate, threatening to kill the worker. He also repeatedly yelled racial slurs. Under the plea deal, both sides will ask for a sentence of 2.5 years in prison. Perez will be sentenced in June. A longtime Illinois politician is hospitalized in critical condition with an undisclosed illness. Cook County Clerk Karen Yarbrough is currently undergoing medical treatment for a, quote, serious condition at an undisclosed hospital. The 73-year-old is halfway through her term as county clerk. Yarbrough is the first Black woman to hold the office. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
The Sigler crash in Irvine has all lanes currently blocked due to an overturned big rig with a cleanup involved on Highway 133 north at the 405. Right now, stop traffic is coming from Lake Forest, and all traffic is being diverted to the 405. In Santa Ana, watch for a stall currently in the right lane of the off-ramp on the 55 north to 17th Street. Right now, a 15-minute traffic jam is heavy from Palomino Avenue. An accident through Anaheim's 91 West at Highway 57 is currently blocking the left lane, with a 15-minute traffic jam running heavy from Imperial Highway. And trouble back in Echo Park continues as 2 right lanes are blocked on the 101 South before Highway 2 Alvarado Street interchange, with a stop delay over 40 minutes from Vine.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
LeBron James said his son Bronny has some tough decisions to make in the next few weeks. With USC men's basketball coach Andy Enfield leaving to take the job at Southern Methodist, people are wondering if Bronny will stay at USC for his sophomore season. LeBron said the family is leaving it up to Bronny to decide if he wants to transfer. Bronny has until April 30th to enter the NCAA's transfer portal. Bronny appeared in 25 games off the bench in his freshman year at USC. He averaged only 4.8 points and 2.1 assists. LSU star Angel Reese is entering the WNBA draft. The 6'3" forward could have returned to LSU for one more season. Reese is a projected top 10 pick. The WNBA draft is April 15th. Reese is a first-team All-American and SEC Player of the Year. She led LSU to the national championship in 2023. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number and put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
As we go a little something like this.
Hey, it is me, D.L. Hugo, and I am thrilled to be heard weekdays in my hometown on KBLA Talk 1580. So check out the D.L. Hugo Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580. We got a whole lot to talk about, let me tell you.
That's like a real.
We're back, and we are having a spirited debate about the Israeli attack on the World Central Kitchen workers. 7 individuals died who were providing humanitarian aid to Gaza. Richard Green is here, and Dr. Omikongo Dabinga. And I just want to read something that is in the Washington Post today. It says, hours after Biden's statement that he was outraged and heartbroken about the World Central Kitchen workers, White House spokesman John Kirby told reporters that the administration's ironclad support for Israel would not change. We make no bones about the fact that we have certain issues about some of the way things are being done, Kirby said. We also make no bones about the fact that Israel is going to continue to have American support for the fight that they are in to eliminate the threat from Hamas. Jose Andres, who's the founder of the World Central Kitchen, said in an interview that Israel targeted his workers systematically, car by car. He called on the United States and other countries whose citizens were killed to conduct their own investigations of what happened. Kirby went on to say that the United States trusts Israel to conduct a thorough, comprehensive, and transparent investigation. And it goes on. Andres is calling on the U.S. to do more to end the war and question how the Biden administration could provide humanitarian assistance in Gaza while continuing to supply Israel with weapons. So this issue has divided Americans. It's divided Jewish Americans. It's divided Israelis. And it's becoming a central figure in the 2024 election, so much so, Dr. Dibinga, that many folks believe that this may be the Achilles heel. This may be, that issue that sinks the Biden-Harris campaign. Others say it's not that kind of issue. It's not an issue that's going to motivate or incentivize folks in terms of what they do at the polls in November. Where do you stand on that point, Dr. Dibinga?
Well, I think that it's important, as Biden said and Obama was saying back when he was running, not to compare Biden to the almighty, but to compare him to the alternative. It is absolutely true that Biden has already lost some votes because of his policy, whether we agree with his policy or not. But the fact of the matter is the alternative is a guy who's interested in having a Muslim registry, who's interested in reintroducing the Muslim ban, who constantly talks about, Jewish people who don't support him not being loyal to him or not being even loyal to their faith, or any Democratic Jews who don't support him, are not loyal. This is Holocaust type language. And people need to be mindful of that as well. But I do believe that there are young people, and they're not just like, people who have Arab descent in Michigan. There are people all across the board who are frustrated with Biden's policies. And he only recently has called for a ceasefire, but there's been no teeth behind it. So it is very possible that particularly in places like Michigan, this could be lost. And it would be terrible that with the great policies that Biden has introduced, whether it's student loans, whether it's healthcare initiatives, whether it's HBCU funding, whether it's having an office on gun violence in the White House for the first time, so many great things he has done to help America move forward after Trump's presidency, that it could be lost over what I consider to be a certain level of stubbornness over his Israeli policy.
Richard, what do you think? You think this is going to be an issue that might move voters to walk away from the Biden-Harris ticket in November?
By the way, I want to thank you, Dr. Dibinga. That was absolutely precisely true. The binary choice that we have does not include the Almighty. And I hope that message gets amplified all over the place. I just want to say two things. I would bet almost everything I own that Israel did not purposely target innocent humanitarian aid workers. What I would imagine is that they were going after targets because Hamas is very crafty and they hide in all sorts of really inconvenient places, and they screwed up. But the thing I just want to say is that Hamas literally, by the end of your show today, Ariva, could end all of this by doing the things we talked about. Just release the hostages, put down your arms and commit to never attacking Israel again. Until that happens, you're going to have crazy people like Netanyahu and the right wing in Israel that are going to try to wipe out Hamas. And it's not just an idea. It's an idea with weapons and rockets and people who want to kill people across the border. That's the problem. And that's why the right wing is empowered to do things that we all don't want them to do.
So, Richard, you are a communications specialist, and we hear you. And Dr. Dibinga and I are students of politics. We, read the papers every day. We read a gazillion different newspapers and outlets. So we can see the nuances in this argument. The average American who's at work all day, raising kids at night, doing homework, doing all of those things, aren't going to get all of these nuances. And all they know is that Israel is continuing to get the unfettered support, as John Kirby just said, of the Biden administration. We're continuing to send aid, and they see dead babies. They see dead women. They see dead older people on their television. They see Jose Andres, who is loved throughout one of his restaurants. And they see him saying he wants the Biden administration to do more. 7 of his workers were killed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Are you at all concerned that the Biden administration's policies, although you support them, could be interpreted by a significant number of voters, particularly in these swing states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and others, in a way that pulls votes away from Joe Biden? Not because they understand all the arguments, but because they see the headlines.
I'm more than concerned. I'm terrified. I do not believe that Joe Biden's support is unfettered. I can guarantee you that because of
Richard, I just read John Kirby said ironclad. So, we can,
ironclad support of the state of Israel as a democracy, which has a right to exist. That doesn't mean that
Richard, stop. You're taking the man's words and changing them. That's not what the man said. I just read exactly
Joe Biden's on the phone with Israel every day trying to talk Netanyahu's government off the cliff and trying to get them to not go into Rafah and trying to get them to not interfere with humanitarian aid. What more can he do? He is not the president of Israel.
Well, some folks say he could stop providing aid. He can call for a more.
They got plenty to kill all the people they want to kill. Why don't we put the pressure on Hamas? All they have to do is release the hostages.
Richard, put on your communications hat. You're putting on your nuanced politics hat. I want you to put on your. I just got home from work.
I didn't know this was going to be a test.
Richard, I just got home from work. I don't even know who Hamas is. All I know, I just know Joe Biden. I just know Joe Biden, and I just heard that he gave billions of dollars to Israel for some weapons, and I saw a dead baby. Come on, let's keep it real simple.
Well, first of all, he didn't give money. He allowed the sale to go through where Israel paid for weapons from American manufacturers. That's a whole other thing. But I hear what you're saying. We all want this to stop. But what should Joe Biden be doing? That's the question. What should he be doing? And are you better off voting for a guy who legitimately hates Muslims than Joe Biden? Those are the questions.
Those are the questions that very sophisticated, very informed voters are going to be asked. You are skirting the question, and I don't have enough time in this segment to go lawyer on you to pin you down to a response. So we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about some other news of the day. I want to talk about this white supremacist who lost his city council seat in a small town in Oklahoma. So maybe that's a victory for the good guys. I talked about the victory with respect to the Disney board. So we are winning some of these small battles, even though they may not seem significant. They are very, very significant. Stay with us. KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tips to help improve your credit score in 2024. Establishing credit is an important key to achieving financial health, but building a credit history from scratch can feel challenging since you need credit to build credit. First, what does it mean to build credit? All consumers have a score between 300 and 850. You want your score to be as high as possible as lenders look at your credit score to make loan and credit decisions. A good credit score shows you have a track record of borrowing money responsibly. Remember, it's never too late to build or rebuild your credit. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
Heard the catchphrase that's sweeping the nation?
Jackson Hugh, yeah.
People are saying Jackson Hugh, yeah, to Jackson Hewitt because they love saving money on tax prep. Do you love saving money? Then switch to Jackson Hewitt today and pay less than last year. Thousands of people have already made the switch. Why haven't you? Stop waiting and start filing. You won't get a better deal or a better catchphrase. All together now.
Jackson Hugh, yeah!
Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a whole lot to
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
And Dr. Dibinga, voters in Enid decided by a 20-point margin yesterday to remove a city council member over his ties to white nationalist groups. This guy, his name was Judd Blevins. He lost his seat on Enid's 6-member city council by 268 votes. This is according to the Oklahoma State Election Board. Nearly 1,400 people turned out. That's about a quarter of that ward's registered voters, and hundreds more than voted when Mr. Blevins was first elected. He's denied that he's ever been a white supremacist, but at a candidate forum last week, he defended marching in Charlottesville and said that his activism was motivated by the same issues that got Donald Trump elected in 2016. What do you think he means by that? That is Mr. Blevins and trying to defend marching in Charlottesville?
And look, I think the mayor also asked him, like, is your campaign or are you part of any white supremacist group? And he basically said, I'm pleading the fifth in terms of answering the question. And I am so proud of this moment, because what it says is that this man is a liar. This man, like you said, I mean, he clearly connected himself to Trump. And kind of going to our last conversation about, the almighty versus the alternative, we're not sitting here saying, oh my gosh, they voted for a liberal Democrat who's pro everything we believe in. It was a Republican woman who's like a teacher or something, who just campaigned on a return to normalcy. And this is what America can do in November. I was so excited to see this story because I'll be honest, Ariva, I didn't know what was going to happen in this runoff. I didn't know if he was going to get double or triple the votes he got before, and certain people weren't just going to show up. But this is what America can be. America's not where we want it to be, but it's not where it used to be. And we have the ability in the next few months to let people know where America can be. So hats off to that community. And let's continue to chase these racists, homophobes, anti-Semites, Islamophobes, anti-women, anti-LGBTQ. Let's continue to chase them back underground where they belong.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Yeah, this wasn't a vote for some progressive or some liberal Democrat. This was a Republican who we probably disagree with her policies, but she wasn't marching and defending those who did march in Charlottesville. She wasn't associating herself with white supremacy. She was saying, look, I have certain conservative views. That's why I'm a Republican, but I am not an outwardly racist like Blevins is and was. And Richard, I'll ask you, he said he was motivated by the same issues that got Donald Trump elected. That's such an odd statement to me. I mean, there's so much in there. I don't mean it's odd. I mean, it's horrible is what I really mean. But he's publicly stating, look, I was just going along with the other white folks who are now declaring that we can be openly racist because Donald Trump gave us permission to be openly racist. Is basically, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he meant.
So the thing that really bothers me is that Trump 2.0, Trump from 2025 to 2029, if he's reelected, will be exponentially more racist, more overt, more violent. What was the comment he made about how everyone coming over the border is a disgusting, horrible human? I mean, and the people literally on Easter, it almost made me gag, right? They literally are treating this guy like he is the return of Jesus Christ. And because of Bobby Kennedy, and I know that's a whole nother topic, because of Bobby Kennedy pulling 9 or 10% in swing states, plus Cornel West and Jill Stein, I have to tell you, I am not optimistic we can keep this guy out of the White House.
Well, I'm more optimistic that we can. What we have to do is get to work and make sure we work. It definitely doesn't help when you have someone like Robert Kennedy running around saying that Joe Biden is a greater threat to democracy than Donald Trump, because he's engaging social media companies and won't even acknowledge that trying to overcome a legitimate election is the ultimate threat to our democracy.
That's right.
That's scary. Clearly, we got a lot of work to do, but I am encouraged by these little small things. You know, the Congresswoman in Alabama that won in a ruby red district as a Democrat, the members of the Disney board and Iger, the CEO, able to keep pelts off of that board, who has disdain for a diversity in this country. And these people in this little small town in Oklahoma who become, you know, it's become national news in a race that had 1,400 people. But it was so important, I think, for this town to send a message that people like this Judge Blevins are not going to be accepted. Real quickly, before I let you both go, Donald Trump made his bond on that fraud case. He posted $175 million bond earlier this week, but now he's back in court asking yet another time. I mean, he files more motions than anyone we've ever seen in the history of litigation in this country. And he's filed a motion for this trial that's set to start April 15th. He really, 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 really does not want to be in that trial. So he has filed another motion asking the state court judge to stay the proceedings while the Supreme Court determines if he's completely immune, and the state court judge is not having it. You know, Richard, one thing that bothers me, well, Donald Trump has low emotional intelligence as much as he has high emotional intelligence. So he attacks the judge's daughter last weekend. Then he comes into court this week at the mercy of the court, asking the court to delay his criminal trial. Does he think that everybody is just a wet noodle, a wet, you know, blanket is going to lay down and let him walk all over them? What? I mean, this judge, I can't even imagine the judge reading the papers before he just said no and hell no.
So here's his strategy. He wins either way. If he wins these motions, he wins and he gets the benefit of it. If he loses, it just reinforces his Jesus-like martyrdom, and his own base loves him and supports him even more. So why is he going to stop? There's no downside to him.
Yeah, Dr. Dominga, you could make that argument, but this guy is not filing these motions to be made a martyr. He's filing these motions because he really, really does not want to be in that trial, because he has lost 2 very important civil cases, and he's going to be in New York with a jury of his peers, the same peers that just, you know, hit him over the head with an $80 million judgment in E. Jean Carroll. Now that's civil, but you know, they're drawing from the same jury pool. I think he's very concerned about, you know, having the Stormy Daniels matter aired out in public and then possibly being convicted.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what should have come out in 2016, you know, and might have derailed his campaign, but I'm not sure, because the Access Hollywood tape didn't derail his campaign. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, you know, he's running for office because he wants to stay out of jail. He wants to make anything disappear that he can. And even though some of these trials are criminal, some of them are civil, he does not want this type of attention. And that was the whole point in the first place. That's why it's a hush money, you know, trial. And so really at the end of the day, we can understand his persecution complex and how that works for some people. But at the end of the day, he does not want to be called felon in any way, shape, or form, or even be going through the process that might lead to that while he's running for office, because he knows that is something that is going to turn people off. And it has turned off a lot of people already. He had trouble getting this money before he eventually got with this loan shark guy, to make it happen.
Yeah, and there are some people who, as you said, Richard, are going to, see him as the second coming of Christ when he is sitting in that courtroom. But there are lots of smart, independent voters and even Republican voters, including some of his former top aides, John Kelly included, who said not only will they not vote for him, but they're considering voting for Joe Biden. So there are a lot of folks who are not going to see him as a martyr. They're going to see him for the criminal that he is. And nobody wants to go down in history as the only former U.S. president that was convicted in a court. And he knows, unlike those federal cases, that, he has this judge in Florida turning flips, trying to, rewrite federal statutes to give him a pass. These state court judges are the ones that seemingly are holding, him accountable and don't appear at all concerned about anything that he says or does, because they know that he does not have any power over them. He doesn't have jurisdiction over them. So yes, he may be a martyr to those folks who are lining up around the corner to go to these religious type, rallies. But there are plenty of voters who are sick and tired of Donald Trump. And I think they're more than even what we know. And as these trials continue, I think we're going to even see more folks say their opposition. We're out of time. Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you so much, Dr. Domingo. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with both of you. When we come forward, we're going to be talking to Miss Robbie. That is Robbie Montgomery. She is 82 years old, and she's setting the world on fire. She's showing the world that there is no such thing as being too old. And listen to what she has to say about the attacks on Joe Biden and other more mature folks who are in elected office, because at 82, she is showing no signs of slowing down or letting her age in any way impede or prevent her from pursuing her dreams and doing incredibly big things across this country. So stick around when we come forward, more on Areva Martin in Real